Hello everyone, welcome back. One of the viewers asked a great question in the comments. Why is the AR-15 line of sight so high over the barrel, right? So the sights, whether they're sights on the carry handles or whether we're using a red dot, we're usually about 2 3/4 inches high above the barrel, okay? And this is a question that I had probably answered. I know I answered in videos several years ago, but hey, there's lots of new people coming into this channel. So we're gonna basically do a summary, not just talking about why the line of sight is so high over the barrel compared to some other guns, but we're also gonna discuss some of the things that make the AR-15 like stand out and give it an edge over other guns that came before this. Okay, so let's start with iron sights. Okay, so here I have the classic FUD gun. Okay, so if you look, the sights on this gun are basically like right on the barrel over here, right? It's getting a little warm here, sun's coming out. So the sights are like right on the barrel. So if you look over here with the stock, you notice how the stock dips down. Okay, so somehow the gun design has to accommodate the fact that my eyes are up here and my shoulder is down here. So I need to brace the gun on my shoulder, or really my chest, right? On this pocket over here between my shoulder and my chest muscle. I have to pull it in there, and you know, there's only so much space I have to bring my face down to the gun. Okay, so if this stock was in line with the barrel, right, basically the barrel would sit a lot lower, and I would have to bring my head a lot lower on the gun, which is really uncomfortable and you know, unworkable, unfeasible. So in the classic design, the way they dealt with this is they, you know, the stock dips down, which brings up the, you know, brings up the barrel and the line of sight that is sitting on top of it. Now, the problem with this design, okay, is when the gun goes bang, you know, because the barrel is up here, the recoil is coming straight back into this empty area here. That makes the gun want to lift up. Okay, so that's what's naturally going to happen, because this is the part that's making contact with my body. The recoil is coming up through the barrel. That pressure is naturally going to want to make the gun lift, you know, regardless of what the caliber is. Okay, so in the AR-15 design, okay, and the AK-47 design, but definitely in the AR-15 design, they made basically a straight line from the stock all the way straight. Okay, so because this is a straight line, okay, I can now put the stock in my shoulder, right? The sights are up at my eye level, right? I just gotta bring my head down just a little bit, and my sights are on the target. Okay, and basically from here I can pivot up. So when the recoil happens, the gun comes straight back into my shoulder. Okay, there's no lift up, because this is the part that makes contact with my shoulder, right? I usually leave this part hanging over the top, you know, and the recoil is just so light that, I mean, it's even questionable if this was necessary, but for like full auto fire, rapid fire, it makes a difference. So because the recoil is straight back, it comes straight back into the stock. There's very little lift. Okay, now if you look at the AK-47, okay, now on the I mean, they kind of use the same design, right? The iron sights are about, I guess, 2 3/4 inches, and I never measured this, above the bore. Okay, now in the on the older versions, on the original AK-47s that had the wooden stock, there was a little bit of a dip down. Okay, by putting an M4 stock on here, it brings it more in, you know, the recoil. Basically, this type of a stock allows me to better absorb that recoil with less lift on the gun. Okay, so the AK-47 kind of accomplishes this, you know, it basically uses the same solution to that same problem of how do you keep the gun from lifting up. Okay, now moving beyond that, right, because I think I've explained that, moving beyond that, there's some other things going on with the AK-47 that the AR-15 solves. So the AK-47 has a piston in here, right? There's this big piston in here that goes all the way up here, and basically there's a lot more metal moving back and forth every time the gun fires. Okay, so every time the gun fires, there's this huge chunk of metal that goes all the way back, and that adds to the lift, to some lift, and then as it goes back down, that throws the momentum of the gun in another direction. So this heavy piston and this heavy bolt going back and forth, that's also moving the gun back and forth. Now, on top of that, the AK-47 is firing a slightly more powerful round, the 7.62 by 3.9. But here's the thing: there's also the AK-74, which shoots a round similar to the 5.56. Okay, so that's why I'm kind of taking. I don't want to spend too much time talking about the difference in the round, because likewise, you can take an AR-15 and you can have it shoot a 300 blackout, which now you're shooting a round out of the AR-15 that's similar to an AK-47 round. So let's take that out of the equation and just look at the mechanics of the gun. So the AK-47 has this bolt that's moving back and forth, right? Not just the bolt, the piston. A bolt with a piston. You got the extra metal of the piston that's moving back and forth. That's also causing the gun to rock back and forth. The AR-15, on the other hand, okay, the more classic direct impingement system doesn't have that piston going back and forth. The bolt itself acts as a piston, really. So you've got gas that's coming back on the gas tube, coming all the way back. So not having this extra metal going back and forth also minimizes, the recoil on this. It makes this a lighter recoiling gun. Okay, so that's an important consideration. Now, I want to take a minute and also talk to you guys about the bolt of the AR-15, because the bolt is really the heart of the AR-15, and there's some things that are like really special about the bolt. Okay, so when the gun fires, right, the gun goes bang, bullet comes out the barrel. There's a hole here that sends the gas up, and it comes back the tube, right, and it comes in through this little plumbing system here, right, called this gas tube, and it comes back through here, and it goes into the gas key over here, right? So what happens is when it goes into this gas key, it comes down in here, and what it does is the first thing that happens is before the bolt even starts moving back, the pressure is actually sent forward. So it actually pushes this forward, okay, right? It makes forward pressure, which basically starts to unlock the bolt itself. Okay. Now there's also the cam pin here, right? Because as soon as it puts some forward pressure, and then what's also happening is as the bolt starts moving back, this cam pin over here pivots on this little cutout in here, okay, which starts rotating it even more, and that also rotates the bolt. So the important thing is that the pressure that comes down, right, through the gas key doesn't just push the bolt forward. It also causes some forward pressure, and that also dissipates some of that felt recoil, because not all the force is going backwards. A lot of the force is going forward, all right, to unlock the bolt or help unlock the bolt. I mean, I'm not exactly sure what percentage-wise, right, how much of the unlocking happens from the gas pushing the bolt forward, and how much of the unlocking happens from the cam pin, camming and rotating. So I don't have that answer. But suffice it to say, as far as from the recoil perspective, some of the force is being sent forward, and when this thing reaches its max forward position, right, and then the bolt starts moving back, okay? And then the excess gas is vented out through these little holes over here, right? You can see those little holes over there, okay? So the bolt is really magical, okay? It's one of the things that makes the AR-15 stand out amongst all the other guns out there. And in fact, it's like technically, it's not even considered a direct, a real direct gas impingement system, okay? Because a real direct I don't know, impingement system would it be actually interacting directly with the bolt, okay? I think that was originally a French design, okay? This is actually interacting, the gas is coming in through the bolt carrier, which is sort of acting like a piston. So it's really not an impingement system or a technically, you know, perfect impingement system. I mean, it works, whatever you want to call it. But that's just so you know, like, you know, there's some guys out there that are going to say, no, it's not real direct impingement. And this is the reason why, because the gas is coming in, the gas is acting on the bolt carrier, not the bolt. And on the original direct impingement design, it was acting on the bolt. Just a minor detail, I just wanted to bring that out. But the thing is, I want to say, as far as recoil reduction, the bolt design, this bolt carrier design absorbs some of that recoil, and again, there's less recoil going into your shoulder. Okay, so let me put this guy back together, and we'll talk a little bit more. Here. Okay, so a couple of other things that make the AR-15 stand out is the fact that this is a non-reciprocating charging handle. So what happens is, yeah, I got to pull the charging handle in order to you know, load the first round into the chamber. But when the gun fires, this charging handle is not moving back and forth, hitting me in the nose. Okay, so the benefit of that, okay, is, let's say with an AK-47, okay. With this, if I'm shooting, let's say, through some brush, and this charging handle is going back and forth, okay, and this hits a tree, let's say, that I'm hiding behind, or some brushes, or gets caught up in brushes, this can cause, the fact that this is sticking out can cause the gun to jam, okay? I mean, obviously, you got to be, like, in a very unique type of situation, and then it could be, like, shooting underneath a car sideways, you know, but anything that this charging handle can catch on, is going to cause the gun to jam. Now, if you happen to be a lefty and you hold the gun like this and your hand comes back for whatever reason, it might just be because you're getting tired, because the natural thing to do is, as you get tired, right, if you're clearing, let's say, 100 rooms or something, right, you know, you're going to bring your hand back here because you're bringing everything closer to your body to basically, you know, because basically you can support this better. Well, if you're a lefty, okay, and you're here and you start getting tired and you bring your hands back, well, now my thumb is coming into contact with that charging handle that's going back, and basically that is going to hurt you a lot when it hits your thumb. So that's one of the things to be aware of with these charging handles that stick out, whether it's on the left side or the right side, because on some guns they put it on the other side. It's going to be annoying to somebody, okay, because sometimes it's set up for a lefty, and if a righty happens to pick it up, it's gonna be annoying to them. Okay, now a lot of times the situation is such that you might end up not shooting your gun, okay, for whatever reason. And if you're a righty that picks up a lefty's gun, or a lefty that picks up a righty's gun, and you have this charging handle that sticks out, that can be a problem. Now, there's certain benefits to the charging handle, in that if you get a round that's really jammed up in there, you know, you can actually, like, put this down and you can kickstart it, you know. You can apply a lot of pressure directly to the bolt to get whatever is in there out. Okay, so that can, you know, so there's some benefits and there's some costs to having a charging handle that you know, that reciprocates, or not having one. Okay, with the SCAR 17, okay, in the original design that came out, I think that it did not have a reciprocating charging handle. And then the military requirement was, they changed the requirement from what I heard to say, hey, redesign this with a charging handle, okay? So FN went ahead and they redesigned it with a reciprocating charging handle. And then what happened during some of the tests, it failed because of that charging handle snagging on things. And it's like, you know, if you didn't force us to put a reciprocating charging handle in there, we wouldn't have had this problem. So I think they went back and they made it without a reciprocate. I'm not a big FN SCAR guy, but that charging handle was an issue with the SCAR 17S. Okay, so just be aware of that. So let's. I also want to talk about the magazines. Now, one of the, like with the AR-15, right? You've got this magazine that just feeds in from the bottom. Now, if this is a fully loaded magazine, right? What happens is if you try to load this on a closed bolt, right? This has to compress a little bit, right? Because that first round has to compress. So that's why with an AR-15 or any gun that basically feeds in through the bottom of the magazine, we always lock the gun open. Okay, lock the gun open, put the gun on safe. Okay, when we say lock and load, when you hear that term, that's what it means. Lock the gun open and load it. And the reason is because it is a lot easier to load a magazine that loads in through the bottom on an open bolt. Okay, if the bolt is closed, right, this has to compress a little bit, and what happens a lot of time on the certain, on the stress or under pressure, you may not hit it hard enough, you might not get it in there. So the solution that they came up with this design was to be able to lock this gun open, right, and then for it to lock open automatically after the last round is fired, so that you can easily put in the magazine, right, and do your magazine changes. Okay, so now with the AK-47, okay, they also had this same issue of how do you get this in there, right, because you got to compress this on the closed bolt. So the solution that they came up with was basically to lever it in. Okay, so the way this works is the natural curve of this AK-47 magazine, right, and the curve is dictated because of the tapered design of the bullets, but the natural curve, right, gives you leverage so that you can rock this in. Okay, so even if this is a fully loaded mag, you have that leverage to lock it in. That's the reason why the Russians never bothered with a gun that you can lock open, right? They never put a feature like that, or a gun that locks open on the last round, because the Russian mentality is, okay, after, and by the way, this is another problem with design, trying to get it in there, because you got to match this up to the right position, which can slow you down. But after you go click, okay, you take out your mag, okay, and then when you go to put, you have a closed bolt, and what you do is you get this into position, right, and then you use leverage to get this in there. So because you're using that leverage, they never had the need to put in a feature where you can lock the gun open, or where you can either lock the gun open or where it would lock open on the last round. On an AR-15, it was necessary, because we don't have that, we don't leverage this in, we don't have all that leverage to put this in. Okay, so we have to, ideally you want to lock the gun open, or you want it to lock open on the last round, so you can do that quick magazine change. Okay, now another feature, I mean, as a result of the design, okay, and this wasn't intentional, but with the AK-47 design, right, they basically have this dust cover over here. The dust cover, even though a lot of the times you can see them that they'll have like a Picatinny rail over here, this is not a very stable place to put optics that need to be zero. That's why they give you this this mounting bracket on the side here, and if you typically if you put optics on here, they come over the top. Now the problem I have found with this is that they come so high that in order to see through an optic that's sitting on top, you have to raise your head open, okay? So you essentially, you have to put your jaw on the stock of the gun so that you can see through an optic that's raised above the dust cover, okay? So that's, now the problem with that is now instead of having the soft part of your cheek on the stock, you've got the hard bone on your stock, and especially when you're shooting a slightly more powerful 7.62 by 3.9, you feel that vibration in your jaw every time the gun goes bang. And that is the reason why I removed the optics that were on the stock. Now, aside from the fact that it was vibrating on my jaw, and I ended up having to put a riser on the stock to lift the stock up a little bit higher. So now it's like I had to add another thing onto this, you know, another layer to deal with this problem, okay? The other issue I had with the mount is if I would push on it, I could see that it moved, okay? Because it wasn't like let's say over here where this is secured and you can push on this as hard as you want, it's not going to compress. With the mounts that come over on the side here and curve over the top, if you apply enough pressure on it, you're going to see that it's going to bend. With this, I can basically stand on this. This is not going to bend, okay? So that's the reason why instead of having the optic mounted back here, I have it mounted up there. And I have found, like, before I did this, like the best I would get like 3 and 4 MOA groups. When I went to this design here, where the optic, and the way this system works here is that the bottom part of this rail is clamped onto the barrel, okay? And then what happens is the top rail here is clamped onto the bottom rail, and then the optic is basically screwed, Loctited into the top rail, okay? And when I put this on here, then I could hit like 2-inch groups and slightly better, okay? So this, at 100 yards. So this system here greatly improved my shooting ability with an AK-47. You know, I could, now, there is a problem with this, okay? The problem is that with this system here, the way I have this set up on an AK, there's a lot of parts. Okay, first of all, you got the bottom rail that's clamped onto the barrel. Okay, so that interferes with the natural harmonics of the barrel. Right, the barrel wants to, you know, to vibe, you know, to move a certain way when the gun goes bang. So that there's a little bit, a tiny little bit, but there's some interference there. Okay, but I've got a clamp on the barrel, and then the top rail clamp, you know, basically bolts into the bottom. Top rail bolts into the bottom rail. And then the optic bolts into the top rail. There's a lot of room for things to loosen up there, right? You're talking about a lot of screws in a lot of different places. And I have found that over a couple of thousand rounds, okay, something, even with the Loctite, things start loosening up, okay? And it'd be one thing if the optic itself was loosening up, because you could kind of go like this and maybe feel it or something, right? But when the clamps on the inside that I can't see are loosening up, I can't see that, I can't feel it. So I generally don't know that some of those internal screws are starting to loosen up until like my groups start opening up. Okay, so this is not a great system either, but it's the best that we can do on this design. Okay, so the other problem I have found with this AK-47 design, okay, is again because we really can't use the dust cover. Although I wish that it did have a Picatinny rail here, because it'd be nice to put a magnifier back here. And if I put the magnifier off of this rail over here, that doesn't match up with the line of sight of this. So again, that's another issue, right? You'd have to, because here's the thing, even if you could get, because I'm sure you can get a dust cover that has a rail, a Picatinny rail on top, then it's a matter of now you got to play around with risers to get the magnifier to match the height of this front rail. It's a freaking nightmare. I mean, it's so much of a hassle that I never bothered to do it. Okay, but aside from that, this thing is really cramped. Okay, because here's the thing, I need a place to put a light So, and I've got some Picatinny rail here for a light. I need, well, actually, the light goes on this side, right? Because the sling attaches to this rail over here, okay? And then the optic goes on top, and then I have very limited room here to put my hand. So this is really cramped for space here, okay? So that's another problem that I find with the AK-47 in the way that we fight today, okay? Because this was great, you know, prior to all the added features, prior to like modern fighting tactics. Now you might say, hey, you know, why do you need all this stuff? Why can't you go with iron sights? And the honest answer is, after having trained, you know, over the last 15 years, like literally thousands of people, I have seen that everybody shoots better with optics, okay? Even the guys that think they don't, they do, right? When I test them, when I put them under stress, everybody shoots better with optics, okay? Especially as you get older and your eyes start not working as well, everybody shoots better with optics. So in today's world, okay, if you're not using optics, right, you're at a disadvantage, right? The guy that's if you're just using iron sights, the guy with the optics is going to have an advantage over you, and that's the reality. I've seen it time and time again, okay? You know, I mean, and this is not just testing one guy against the other. This is testing people against themselves, okay? You know, shoot this gun with optics, shoot this gun without optics, okay? Let's see, you know, which groups are tighter. Let's see how you get on target faster, okay? The optics always win, okay? I've seen this time and time again. Now, I told you a whole bunch of issues that come up with this design over here, and this is all due to this dust cover over here, right? This is basically unusable area over here, or to use it, we would have to, like, again, we'd have to play around with we'd have to play, because I'd like to get a magnifier back here somewhere, but I'd have to spend a lot of time fussing with different height rails and risers to get this to match up. It's just not worth the headache, because I have a much easier solution here, okay? Because remind you, with this gun over here, when I bought this gun, I think it was like $500, right? These AKs, when I was buying them back in 2007, 2008, 2009, these things were like $500. But in order to get it to the point where it could accept the optics and I could attach lights, you know, basically I had to spend whatever, an extra $150 before I even put the optic on it, okay? So when you buy this gun, you have to spend more money to get it to a level where you can mount your optics and slings and lights and stuff like that. So to the guy that's just getting into guns, why? I mean, I have a hard time telling them to buy a gun like that and then spend more money to get it ready to bring it to a level where you can start mounting all the things that you need to compete, right, with other people, right? And it doesn't matter whether you're actually going to a competition or not. You know, it doesn't matter whether you're competing for points or possibly competing for life. In the end, it's a game. You know, in order for one person to win, somebody's got to lose. Okay. So with this design here, because of the AR design of the upper and lower, open this up. The barrel. Am I locked open? Yeah, I'm locked open. Okay. So the barrel is part of the upper receiver, right? So because this is part of the upper receiver, we can mount the optic directly on this, okay? So I've got a lot of real estate here to put stuff on, okay? So the most important thing, the optic, that goes there. Next most important thing, in my opinion, is the magnifier. And this doesn't mean that we're going to be shooting at 500 yards, but even shooting at 100 yards, I can see something small like a tennis ball, or what would be, let's say, a hand or a foot, you know, or somebody peeking out, you know, past a rock or something. A magnifier will help you see better, you know, small things better at 100 yards that are trying to hide, okay? So the magnifier is critical. The light, critical, right? Especially night shooting. Now, the great thing about this system is, if I don't need these things, if it's night and I'm not going to be shooting, and I don't think the magnifier is going to help me, I just take this thing off, put this in my pocket, light in the gun, okay? okay? Or if it's daytime, take this off, put that in my pocket. I've lightened the gun, so I got a much lighter gun now, okay? And I still retain my backup sights. Now, in this position here, and I've done videos on this, I did a video where I dimmed down the magnifier, and I'm just shooting the iron sights, right, with the mag. Now you gotta open up you gotta use the large aperture so you can see it that far out, or at least I do with my eye sights. So at this with this setup here with the iron sights at this distance, it's still more than most pistols will give you, and I can hit targets out to 100 yards. Okay. Now, usually back here in the grip, I'll keep Allen keys, right, and spare batteries and some spare parts. I covered that in another video, right? A full bolt, not a bolt carrier, but just a bolt. That's another thing I can go in the grip over here. So I can use the Allen key where I can move these. Okay, so this is a good storage place, right? So even if I'm not going to be using these iron sights, or even if I don't love them in this position, that is a good temporary storage place. You know, because these things are light, so it's not a bad idea to have them if you've got the space over here. Okay, so these are some of the advantages of the AR-15. And again, going back to why the line of sight is so high, okay, is because the stock is basically in line with the barrel, in line with the bolt, okay, and this recoil is coming straight back into your shoulder, and there's very minimal rise, like poof, 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 poof. You know, it's not boof, boof, boof. Okay, so basically this is a, you know, it's basically a newbie video. Most of the guys that have been around AR-15s for a while are going to know this information, but it's also easy to forget a lot of these details. Okay, so even for you guys that are out there that know some of this stuff, might have forgotten it, it's a good review, because remember, it's not just for us to know, it's also for us to know and pass on to the newbies that are coming into the community. Okay, because the way we win the gunfight is to continue to recruit more people into the gun community and grow our ranks. Okay, that's how we ultimately win the gunfight. It's not going to be through the politicians. It's not even going to be through the Supreme Court. Okay, it's by continually recruiting more people into our ranks. Now, from what I hear, YouTube is about, because there's a lot of these Democrat news medias, they've made a complaint to YouTube of why they allow so much gun content. So I have a feeling that there's probably going to be another round of strikes and channel closings. I've had YouTube channels shut down in the past. That's why I have 3 YouTube channels. One's a backup to the other. Make sure you're subscribed in all of them. Okay, the original one that goes back to 2006 is TSAFA, T-S-A-F-A. I got Absolute Gun Rights, and then I've got CCW Training PA, something like that. I forgot the name. I actually forgot the full name of it. But make sure that you're subscribed to all my channels, and also on the off platforms. Okay, on Odyssey, I'm on HugeTube, I'm on BitChute. Okay, now I'm also on Rumble, but Rumble stopped importing a lot of the YouTube videos. I used to be able to import them automatically, and right now I don't have a way to easily import the videos from Rumble, from YouTube onto Rumble, and YouTube is doing this on purpose to them, because so a lot of my videos aren't showing up on Rumble right now, but you will find them on Odyssey, and you'll find them on BitChute. You know, in a way, it would actually be better, because YouTube is like, it keeps coming up with these restrictions and this. It'd be, you know, if they just came out and said, hey, we are absolutely banning any and all gun content on YouTube, it might actually work better for us, because at least then all the channels would move somewhere else. Okay, but it's like right now, it's like, yeah, I've got all these other off-platform channels like Odyssey and BitChute, and yeah, they got something like 200 subs, but you know, the problem is until like YouTube decides to shut down all the gun channels, I mean, nobody's gonna move on over there, you know, in a big enough group. So it's like, I wish they would like make a decision with this already, go one way or the other. So anyway, just sharing my thoughts with that. So yeah, I'll put a link below to the BitChew channel. And the thing is, I'll put in the description, but I think it may not work because I think YouTube might actually be blocking it. But if you go over to BitChew, just look up Pocono Guns or Pocono Shooting, or just look up the name of, like, let's say this video right here. If you copy and paste the exact name of this video in BitChew and Odyssey, it will show up, and then you'll find the channel and you can subscribe to it over there. Okay, so thanks for watching. Talk to you all soon.